Welcome in PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep. State meet prediction time, and we will hand out some individual event predictions and take a look at what is a painfully tight top five. As I mean, this is really looking like a state meet where a slip up by a top team could take them from first to outside of the trophy race, and because the relays in particular being worth double could really cause some huge swings here. Let's get right into it so we don't go too long today. Medley relay. I've got New Trier repeating here. Obviously, they lost their front half, but they brought in a whole new front half via transfer, and I think that's enough with the supporting cast they have. I've got them taking it. I've got Hinsdale Central second. Again, those two front halves, they're going to be out there with some open water, and I think that'll be the difference between their back halves being weaker than, say, Deerfield and Rosary with the big-time Flyers. And that's my 3-4 at Deerfield and Rosary. Stevenson 5, St. Charles North 6. Again, no Stavropoulos for St. Charles North on the medley. And so that's why they get the bottom spot in the top 6. The bottom 6, Naperville Central, Neuqua, Ignatius, Fenwick, Libertyville, Friend. If Ignatius finds their way into the top 6 here, that puts them right in the favorites discussion for the state championship. Their relay didn't even come close to scoring last year. They're throwing Arroyo on there instead of in 2 free relays. We'll have to see if they've got enough. They are easily by at least a couple tenths the slowest from sectionals relay that I have scoring in the medley. 200 free, the top 2, it sure looks like a stone cold lock. Park, Kerr from Deerfield and Barrington respectively, and then it's just a mosh pit of unproven swimmers here at the state level. I've got Haley Volchek, Riverside Brookfield, Kayla Newman, Highland Park, Olivia Safrakova, New Trier, and Emma Overall, Yorkville Christian in the top 6. In the bottom, I've got Amelia Murphy, West Chicago, Renee Tan, Whitney Young, Maggie Adler, LT, Ellie Houston, Buffalo Grove, Hannah Wankowski, Stevenson, and Peyton Menely, Buffalo Grove. Again, it was pretty slim pickings. The 200 is usually a way tougher race than what we're seeing, drawing from the 500 and the 100, but the 500 is so weak. And enough of those swimmers are swimming the IM that the 200 is really down this year after the top 2. In the IM, this actually should be a fun and competitive race for first place, unlike last year where Leah Hayes just blew everybody out. I've got Julietta Tracy, Izzy Boo, Chloe Diner, Caroline Kramer, Sadie Murphy, and Burlington Bocos as my top 6. In the bottom, I've got Katie Gressick, Isabella Ramos, Elizabeth Naraki, Enya Linson, Imogen Duffy, and Becky Phillips. So that's 2 from Hinsdale Central in the top, which again, it would be huge. And, you know, St. Charles North also has 2 scoring IMers here. So does Oswego. So if any shakeup happens there, it would be a real boon for St. Charles North to sneak in a second into the top 6. But again, what we're seeing here is that because of everyone that didn't swim this year, someone that didn't score in the IM is going to be in the top 6 this year. Several people. So it's there's a lot of opportunity in each of these first 2 races to sneak into the top 6 even. In the 50, this race looks considerably tougher, which, there's just a lot more kids going the 50. My top 6 is Kit Schneider, Brooke Corrigan from Rockford Christian, Gracie Colvin, Hononegah, Becky Rentz, Rosary, Tess Stavropoulos, St. Charles North, Katie Kane Friend. Again, Corrigan, basically a newcomer. Colvin, and Schneider are obviously returning scorers. Rentz moved into the 50 after going through relays last year. Stavropoulos, freshman, and Kane was bottom last year. But there's a lot of girls all in this low 23 range, and it really becomes a who's going to get faster, who's going to get slower, who's going to stay the same. The ones that get faster are the ones that are going to score. The bottom six, I've got Izzy Gatone from Stevenson, Eden Goach, Naperville Central, Stephanie Karova, Stevenson, Claire Conklin, West Chicago, Lauren Phillips, Naperville Central, Charlize Escasa, New Trier. Diving, there shouldn't be that much impact on the trophy race from diving this year, thankfully. It's just a lot cleaner when you're trying to figure out these things when diving isn't involved. I do have Hinsdale and New Trier getting some diving points. Jackie Stadler, Glenbrook South, Marnie Howard, Normal Community West, Maggie Bendall, Cary Grove, Kay Janae, Fremd, Riley McGrath, and Allison Wolvie is my top six. And in the bottom, Margie Martell, Hinsdale Central, Caitlin Wadowski, Rolling Meadows, Kalina Siglinski, York, Caitlin Olson, South Elgin, Allison Humbert, Libertyville, and Leela Novelly, New Trier. At the bottom there, it was especially questionable. New Trier more often than not finds a way to score a diver, so I threw him 12th. Even though their divers are not as good as we've seen in recent years. In the fly, again, the fly for top six looks like a really loaded dogfight. I've got Park, Rentz, 1-2. Again, Rentz is the number one seed. Rentz is 53.5 already. So that puts her within range, you would think, of potentially going 52, but that's a big half second for her to drop, and we know what Park's capable of. She's going to drop big compared to where she already is. Boosma from Stevenson, third. Boo, St. Charles North, fourth. Arroyo from Ignatius, fifth, and then Duhamel, Naperville North, sixth, which leads Gracie Colvin, seventh. All of those girls are already 55 or better, except for Arroyo. We talked on the program preview show about how Ignatius is lying in the weeds. Arroyo was top six last year. She's got a lot more room to improve. The rest of my bottom six is Lauren O'Connor, Rosary, Sydney Lewis, Highland Park, Amanda Schmidt, Mattia, Bailey Racky, Fenwick, Julia Berry, Sandberg. I think those spots after Colvin and O'Connor are really up for grabs. 100 free. I've got a showdown between Julietta Tracy and Tierney Lenahan, ending in a double state championship performance with Julietta Tracy. And then it's something we really haven't talked about all year because we were waiting to see which of these underclassmen went out for their high school team is Senior Swimmer of the Year. To me, it looks like that's your showdown, is Tracy v. Kerr for Senior Swimmer. And, Kerr is only going to win one unless Park disqualifies. It's impossible to see her winning the 200 free against the defending state champion and state record holder. But Tracy doesn't have a guaranteed win like Kerr appears to have in the 500. So the edge for Tracy is she could be the only senior to win two. The edge for Kerr is that we know she's at least going to win one. And so if she's got a first and a second and Tracy's got 2 seconds, then Kerr probably wins it. Voters are not supposed to take into account relays, which would obviously be a huge advantage for Julietta Tracy because she's going to have top 6 relays. Kerr might not even swim a relay on Saturday. So that seems to be where it's going to come down to is Tracy and Kerr. We know when you look at the rest of the individual races, Park's probably going to win 2. If Park doesn't win 2, the more likely loss looks like the fly is what Rentz is doing, but Rentz is only a sophomore. So that leaves the backstroke, which looks like Tierney Lenahan's to lose. She's a sophomore. The breaststroke is the race that looks most likely to be won by a senior, other than the 500 free. That's going to be a battle between Escasa and Papa Nicholas of New Trier and Kramer of Hinsdale Central. But none of those girls has a possibility of winning a second race. Kramer certainly has the best chance with the IM of placing high. Escasa in the 50, I can't see her getting top 6. Papa Nicholas didn't even qualify in the IM, so she's out. To me, senior swimmers is just something fun to discuss, especially when there's kind of a match race like this. But some years, the senior class at the top just isn't that great, and that's certainly the case this year. And so, again, if I was betting, I would bet on Tracy because I have her winning 2 races. But the play it safe bet is Kerr, because she's going to win the 500 free unless something crazy happens, and probably get no worse than second in the 200 free. So her first is more locked in than any other first place for a senior, because we have any one of 3 seniors that could win the breaststroke. The rest of the 100 free: Lenahan, Kane, Conklin, Stavropoulos, who we all had in the top 6, top 12 of the 50, and then Logan Howard from Libertyville. Bottom 6: Hannah Wankowski Stevenson, Isabella Wilhelm Deerfield, Safra Cover from New Trier, Peyton Dorman, St. Charles East, Phillips and Adler from LT. I have 11th and 12th. We discussed Kerr in the 500. Bocas, I have second. She's the only other person under 5. Haley Volchek, Riverside Brookfield. Katie Gressick, Oswego East. Kayla Newman, Highland Park. Enya Linson, St. Charles East is the rest of my top 6. The bottom: Ellie Houston, Buffalo Grove, Renee Tan, Whitney Young, Riley Routledge, Mundelein, Abby Hill, Marion, Caroline Pendlay, Naperville North, and Julie McNamara, St. Ignatius. Again, the 500, for a lot of these girls, it's going to be about who can hang on the best. If you drop time, you're going to score, because a lot of these kids are not going to drop time. 200 relay. I've been on this train all year. I'm sticking to it. I've got Ignatius winning this relay, in spite of the fact that they, would have struggled to qualify if they were most other sectionals. Well, I mean, most around Chicago anyway. With the time they went, they really just swam through the sectional meet, which I think is a good move overall if you can pull it off, because of how weak your sectional is. The rest of my top 6 is Stevenson, Deerfield, LT, Hinsdale, New Trier. Again, this relay is one that it could get dicey for some of these trophy hopefuls, state championship hopefuls, and so if any of Ignatius, Stevenson, Hinsdale, or New Trier ends up in the bottom, that could be the end of their state championship hopes, or even their trophy hopes, depending on how the rest of the meet's going. In the bottom, I have Oswego East, West Chicago, St. Charles North, Rosary, Neuqua, and Naperville Central. But again, all those relays, except for Rosary, who went 36 at the sectional, are within a couple tenths of New Trier and Hinsdale. Those top 4 are all 34 or better. Everyone else is 35 or worse. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity. A couple tenths here, a couple tenths there. It could really flip things. The backstroke, I've got Lenahan winning, as mentioned. Vera Connick, Rolling Meadows, freshman, I have second. Jennifer Chen, Stevenson, third. Sadie Murphy, Oak Park, fourth. Lauren O'Connor, Rosary, fifth. Maria Chang, Loyola, sixth. O'Connor and Chang are the only 2 returning scorers in this race. In the bottom, Julie McNamara, Ignatius, Jenna Williams, and Nicole Burton, St. Charles North. Emma Darling, Lake Forest. Eden Goach, Naperville Central. Sophia T. Janellis, Libertyville. Again, the backstroke's another race they had hit hard by graduation, and also the number 1 returner, Michelle Kaner from Maine West, did not swim high school. The breaststroke, this one is going to be super tough. It very likely could take 102 to get top 6. We already have 5 102s from the sectional. My top 6 is Iskasa from New Trier, Kramer from Hinsdale, Papa Nicholas from New Trier, Naraki from Rosary, and Duran from Taft. Those 5 were all top 6 last year. And then Chloe Diner, I've got sneaking in the 6th spot as the newcomer. The bottom 6, I have Ruhi Chatan from Neuqua Valley, Stephanie Karova Stevenson, Corrigan Rockford Christian, Erica LQ, Deerfield, Claire Schiffer, Imperial Central, Olivia Moore, Rosary. The top 9 are all under 4 already. So the other group is definitely vulnerable to someone sneaking in from outside this group. But Chatan scored last year, even though I have her in the bottom, and so I really like the top 7. And after that, it's really a group that hasn't proven it at the state level before. 400 relay, I've got St. Charles North winning. I've liked that relay the best all year in this race. I have Stevenson 2nd, Ignatius 3rd, LT 4th, New Trier 5th, Hinsdale 6th, West Chicago, Neuqua, Oswego East, Highland Park, Naperville North, and Fenwick in the bottom. West Chicago and Hinsdale are actually tied with their qualifying time, 3:30:07. And West Chicago and LT are the 2 party crashers in the free relays, along with Oswego to a lesser extent. They just don't have the headline sprinter that West Chicago does, or the supporting cast like LT does after their big 2. They've got Gressick and Diner, who are definitely more talented than Phillips and Adler, but Phillips and Adler are more of from the cloth of being pure sprinters, where Gressick and Diner are not. And so that makes a difference when you're putting together sprint relays. And so that's the end of the road for the event predictions. As it comes to team scores, this is, if all of this takes place, this is what it looks like. New Trier 143, Hinsdale Central 133, St. Charles North 123, Stevenson 121, Ignatius 113. 5 teams all within 30 points of a state title, which is why, going back to the relay talk, teams slipping from top to bottom, or like in Ignatius's case, out of the top 12 entirely in the medley, or for St. Charles North in the 200 free relay, would really be a blow and potentially shake up the field. The rest of the top 10, big drop off from Ignatius to Deerfield at 88, Rosary 83, Oswego East 81, LT 52, West Chicago 45. That's the top 10. It dropped from 45 to Neuqua and Highland Park tied at 31 for 11th. So top 5, clear separation. Top 10, clear separation. We talked about it on the meet program preview show. Because there's so few qualifiers, you're going to have these big concentration of points among the top teams, because there's just not enough talent around the state to shake that up. And so 5 teams with 100 points, that's about as many as you'll ever have in a boys or a girls meet. And so that concentration of power just shows you that, other than LT, who I've got in for a pair of 4ths in the free relays, the same 5 schools are going to be in the top 6 a lot. And it's New Trier, Hinsdale, St. Charles North, Stevenson, and Ignatius. Although St. Charles North and Ignatius both have a relay that I don't have in the top 6, which is why the door is opened for Deerfield, Rosary, and then schools like in the LT, West Chicago, potentially in the free relays. So it's a wide open meet for the state title, I think, and really, as I've been reading, I actually saw a typo that I have here. I said 81. It should be 61 for Oswego. Somehow I put a 20 in the medley for them, but I've only got them scoring 3 relays. So apologies for that. But it actually didn't change their place because there was such a drop off from 8th to 9th. So just 8th with 61 in danger from LT and West Chicago battling for those last 3 spots in the top 10. So again, as I'll mention it again, make sure you print off your heat sheet or your dive order list if you're someone that's going for diving off the IHSA site. If you go to girls swimming and go to state series information and results, there's a bunch of links that show up at the top of the page. One of them is a PDF of the swimming heat sheet. One of them is a PDF of the diving order list because last year there was no heat sheet and they didn't provide this, at least that I can remember. This year they do, which to me means they've never done it before. There's probably still not going to be a heat sheet, but because so many people probably complained, myself included, that there wasn't a heat sheet last year, they're at least providing this on their site in advance. So get on there, print it off, and bring your own. And you know, it's 14 pages. I double-sided it, so it's only 7. It's very manageable. And it'll greatly increase everyone's enjoyment of the meet. I am sure if you have that. So exciting couple days here leading up. Hopefully everyone is getting excited to go watch, and hopefully the girls are getting excited to go compete. This is as wide open a state championship showdown as I can ever remember, boys or girls. And again, there's just a lot of people that have never done it before being counted on by these teams, so you just never know how it's going to swing one way or the other. I still think that New Trier has the most top 6 swims projected, and that's really the difference between them and everyone else right now. But again, those free relays for New Trier, they're not usually coming out of sectionals seated so low. So it's unusual, and so it definitely puts a seed of doubt in the back of your mind. If they end up bottom in one or both of those relays, there's a pretty good chance we're going to see someone else win the state championship on Saturday. So it should be an exciting one. Good luck to all the swimmers and teams, and hopefully it's a faster meet than what it looks like it's going to be, because that'll make it even more exciting. As always, you can email me, skylerprepaquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylerPrep, and we'll be back next week recapping who the state champion is, recapping that senior swimmer of the year race when we officially see who is likely to win that one. And again, New Trier, repeat, or are we going to have a new state champion? St. Charles North, Stevenson, and Ignatius have all never won a state title. Ignatius has never even won a trophy in swimming. And or is it going to be the old guard? Is it going to be New Trier with a repeat? Is it going to be Hinsdale Central, who's won several titles, but none since the early 90s? So tons of storylines, and all of them pretty interesting if you're following along this weekend. When we're back next week, we recap it all and close the books on the 2022 season here at PrepAquatics.com.